Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everybody. Good Thursday morning. Hope you are doing well so far. We'll have Author of the Week today. I do believe Christy Fulnecki will be joining us. Did you see the interview that took place last
Oh,
night?
yeah, I did.
This is the Brett Baer interview with Kamala Harris. What was your overall impression?
My favorite part was when Brett was questioning her about illegal immigration, and then she tried to blame it on Donald Trump. And then she said, "You know what I'm talking about." And he said, "Actually, I don't."
Well, yeah, and I'm glad he said that because it's the most obvious thing, but reporters don't want to say it. Well, most reporters that ask her questions, they're there to help her. They're there co-campaigning with her. But it's her normal nonsense, and just we'll play some of this audio in which she's like, "You know what I'm talking about." He's like, "Actually, I don't know what you're talking about," and he didn't say it sarcastically. It did not go well for her because allies of her are saying that she was ambushed, that Brett Baer was just awful. He was this horrible attack dog that wouldn't let her talk. And I don't think that there could have been a more polite, straightforward individual than he demonstrated last night. Now, he did, when she wasn't answering the question, he very politely was trying to rein her back in, but it wasn't, anything that was hostile by any stretch of the imagination. But it's clear that they are not pleased with the way it went. And I'll tell you ultimately why. And I think this is there's the way that the Politico people in the world observe that interview versus the way that voters do is the same divide that we saw with the evaluation of the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Like, you have the people that are the experts looking at the back and forth, and they even poll people. Well, who do you think won? And Kamala won for all of these reasons, but it didn't help her. And it didn't help her because there's the winning of the debate versus, okay, what did we get out of it? And so structurally, you can look at the back and forth and evaluate it in terms of, did she seem confident? Was he steamrolling her? Was it a hostile interview? But that's not what people right now are looking at. People are looking to figure out what it is that Kamala Harris stands for and what she's going to do. And again, none of that was revealed during the interview. None of that.
Yeah, she's just spent 30 minutes just hammering on Donald Trump and just basically filibustering.
Yeah, and she, every question that he asked, in my mind, this is what always happens, and I've said this before, to see a focus group. All right, here's the question, here's her answer. Okay, now in your own words, what's the answer to the question? So when Brett Baer asks, are you still going to support taxpayers paying for sex change operations of people in federal penitentiaries? This is something that she has in the past said. He asked her this question. She gives an answer. Then I would love to see a focus group of voters, even Democrat Kamala Harris supporter voters, say, all right, so what is her answer? Will she, as president, support, keep the same position that she has in the past? Does she still support taxpayer-funded sex change operations for prisoners? And what you would find is bewilderment because she doesn't answer the questions. And so you have these two versions of, who, quote, won. That wasn't a debate, but an exchange. And that is separate from, is that people who don't know where Kamala Harris stands, people who are worried about the direction of the country and are wondering, are we going to continue 4 more years like this, or are we going to do things like we did before? Watching that interview did not give them any answers, any more than they already have of Kamala Harris. And so there are in fact, it's a short piece in the Federalist arguing that potentially that interview may do to Kamala what the debate did to Joe Biden, and that is pretty much end things. Now, not to the point that she's going to be dropped, obviously, but just that was pretty much it. The finale, that was her Hail Mary, her opportunity to tap into the last group of voters that they haven't really tried desperately to gather up, and that she blew it, and so that's the end of it. I suspect. I don't know whether the Joe Rogan thing will happen or not. Something else that Brett Baer revealed is that they showed up 15 minutes late, and in doing so said, oh, well, we're not going to be able to have you ask as many questions now. And then when it got to the abbreviated point, which was shorter than Brett Baer was told he would have with her, there were 4 of her staffers, and he even referenced, well, I'm being told to wrap it up, that were like waving their arms, stop asking her question. It would have been nice if what I would have liked to have seen is, instead of him, but this is how he's a polite guy, complying with their arm waving request in panic to end the interview, is to say, your people are signaling to me that this needs to end. I have a few more questions. Is it all right if I ask them of you? And then make her make that decision, instead of allowing her to hide behind the frantic, please end this interview now, arm waving of her people behind or off camera. But at least Brett Baer acknowledged that happened, so that people do realize that occurred. But I'm telling you, the fact that, what was it, one of her, it was someone from her campaign, or from a previous campaign, is a Democrat, had posted that she was ambushed. Ambushed? There wasn't a single question that was asked that's not an obvious question. I mean, an ambush to me is you don't know what's coming. How could she not know any of those questions were coming? They were about the border. They were about, when did she know about Biden's cognitive decline? They were, questions about all of the things that are being talked about that Trump is accusing her of. There isn't anything. It wasn't like, we're going to test your knowledge of foreign leaders. Can you tell us who the leader of Sudan is? And who, it wasn't anything like that, which I believe it was George Bush, the media did that to her. Sarah Palin pulled these random, sort of, who would even know the answer to that question in order to make him look stupid. I think it was Bush they did that to. But there wasn't any of that. These were all the most obvious questions one could ever think of. So the fact that, on one hand, her supporters some of them, they're trying to spin it and say she did a wonderful job, but you get this characterization that this was an ambush, it was unfair, and that tells us what we need to know about her own supporters' perspective of how it was that she did. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see widespread frost mainly before 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 68. For tonight, clear skies with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 73.
I am going to play some of the interview from the Kamala Harris, Brett Baer exchange, some of that audio. That will be coming up. But I wanted to play this other bit of audio, and it may seem somewhat random. And I believe about once a year or so, I play this, just a few clips of news stories. And it's in reference to the continued campaign theme of January 6th and the insurrection. Because this is one of the only tools that they really try to utilize, though, yeah, it just, there's continued efforts, and there will be. If he gets elected president, of course, they're going to continue to try to imprison him. Joe Biden, I played audio yesterday of him saying he can't wait to see his sentencing. So they're openly at this point acknowledging what it is that they claim without evidence Trump will try and do, and that is imprison political opposition. And so much of it's in the context of January 6th and the insurrections. And to this day, they are still, the Biden administration is still tracking down and rounding up some people that didn't even go into the Capitol. And it's all about the peaceful transfer of power, the peaceful transfer of power. And they love to still ask Trump this question. They love to ask J.D. Vance this question. Do you commit to accepting the outcome? Do you commit to a peaceful transition of power? And what so often gets forgotten, even by, I believe, Trump supporters, because of the memory hole that is created by the media, is what it was like during Trump's inauguration, which is the official transfer of power. That actually is the official transfer of power, because that is the swearing in. If we are going to talk about what is the most, in terms most accurately defined as transfer of power, it would be the inauguration, because that's when the new president is sworn in and that person becomes president of the United States. It's not when the Senate counts the votes. It's not when, all of the brouhaha that happened on January 6th. That isn't the moment. That wasn't the moment Joe Biden became president. It's during the swearing in. And the Obama administration Parks Department gave out permits to organizations who openly stated that their goal was to prevent the swearing in of Donald Trump. This was the Obama administration. They're like, yeah, no problem at all. Knock yourselves out. So those were individuals, those Democrat activists, who openly acknowledged and encouraged people. They were asking people to come help them stop the transition of power to Donald Trump. And here is a few news clips from mainstream media outlets, CBS, ABC, and NBC, covering the inauguration of Donald Trump.
Blocks from the White House, but far removed from the peaceful transfer of power, anti-Trump protests turned violent today. More than 200 people were arrested. 6 police officers were wounded. Here's Errol Barnett.
Vandalism aimed at downtown businesses prompted riot police to descend on these unruly protesters. One demonstrator threw a flashbang grenade back at police. It exploded in an officer's face, leaving him with minor injuries.
Thousands of protesters also descended on Washington, D.C. Most were peaceful, but some got violent. As of this evening, 217 people have been arrested, accused of rioting during inauguration protests, and 6 officers have minor injuries, according to the Washington, D.C. police chief.
A limousine set on fire as demonstrators wreaked havoc in Washington. Police had to push back the protesters so firefighters could get to the flames. A group of people carrying anarchy flags pushed over trash cans and destroyed storefront windows as they swarmed through the streets. Police fought back with pepper spray and tear gas.
Burning cars and smashed windows. A small group of protesters dressed in black, their faces covered, armed with hammers and bricks. Facing off with thousands of officers on site, many in riot gear, confronting them with flashbang grenades and pepper spray. all of a sudden, the police officers started to spray pepper spray, and they got our audio technician. They're going to see us running because they're going to throw more flashbangs.
Not everyone gathered here in Washington today came to celebrate President Trump's inauguration. Protesters lined part of the parade route, and in some parts of the Capitol, there were confrontations with police. And tomorrow here in Washington, a women's march and demonstrations planned across this country. ABC's David Curley witnessed the protests firsthand.
The anger reaching a boiling point in the nation's capital after President Trump took the oath of office. Police in riot gear facing off against the protesters just 6 blocks from the inaugural parade, unleashing pepper spray, concussion grenades, all to disperse the crowd.
They've been using pepper spray out of canisters. So you have the bulk of the protesters right here, and here's the police line right at 13th.
Trash cans, and then 3 vehicles set on fire.
2 vehicles have been ignited. The fire folks have just moved in.
Many of the protesters cloaked in black with their faces covered.
The protesters had filled the street with several trash cans, and now police and fire are trying to move them out of the way.
Earlier in the day, self-proclaimed anarchists smashed Washington storefronts with hammers.
Now, that's just 3 or 4 different news reports from the day of the inauguration in which Democrat activists openly acknowledged that their goal was to prevent the peaceful transition of power to Donald Trump. In fact, the opening of that was the anchor of with David Peely, I believe it was, and he opened the story with "Far from the peaceful transition of power." The last clip of the story about the protesters trying to prevent the transfer of power using violence against Trump supporters and police officers was David Muir, who was a moderator for the debate most recently, and who asked questions about January 6th, as if somehow we've never seen any sort of violence or protest. And if you notice through all those stories, they were referred to as demonstrators and protesters. No insurrectionist talk was there. None. The protesters chanting "Not my president," which is what many Democrats, elected Democrats, who openly had acknowledged that they were not going to go to the inauguration because Trump wasn't the legitimate president. Questioning, not just questioning the outcome of the election, but flat out denying it. This is the level of dishonesty within the Democrat Party. And yes, some of you as voters. Because you run around acting as if Donald Trump, who, by the way, the only audio that exists of him even referencing January 6th prior to the Capitol situation was telling people to be peaceful. They run around talking about January 6th, using the term insurrectionist. You know how many of the protesters, including those that attacked police officers, the Trump administration went after on a federal level? 0. 0. Many of them were arrested. They were given tickets and fined. They certainly didn't sit in a Washington, D.C. prison for years on end. And there's still, the Biden administration is rounding up people that were outside the Capitol on January 6th. So it's not just elected Democrats, but Democrat voters who will point to January 6th, who will claim that Trump is a dictator and that his supporters are a bunch of lunatic insurrectionists whenever that occurred. They're dishonest. Completely and totally dishonest. And like I said, every so often that audio, I think even those of you that understand what's going on in the lawfare and the totalitarianism of the Democrat Party today can use a little reminder. That's what was occurring. And incidentally, this is the mindset of the left and the media. See, those protests were not a sign of unruly dangers to democracy. Those protests were a sign and a reflection of how bad Trump was. That's why all that occurred. That's why they covered it. You think, why would they cover all that stuff at the time? Why didn't they downplay it? Because they didn't see it as, here are Hillary Clinton supporters that are trying to stop the peaceful transition of power as a bunch of insurrectionists, and they're a danger to democracy. No, no, no. See, they saw that as a natural reaction to Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the danger. It's because they're not objective. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. All right, going to play some of that Kamala audio coming up. Do have traffic standing by. A couple different things. Your chance to get registered at ksgf.com for the private showing of the movie The Hunt. That is going to be a private showing we do Saturday the 26th. And if you win, then you and another person, you get a pair of tickets. Not really tickets. Your name will go on a list. And then at 5 o'clock on Saturday the 26th, you'll join us for The Hunt. It is a violent movie, just so you do know. It's got some political satire to it as well. But you can register for that. Again, ksgf.com, as well as How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which will be the musical performance at Great Southern Bank Broadway season, November 4th through November 7th, and text to win Tickets, dual tickets. This is for Hotel of Terror and Dungeons of Doom. You text the following word to the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line, which is 417-447-KSGF, and that word is...
Monster.
Oh, very scary and appropriate. Monster. One word, no exclamation points or anything like that, just the word monster. You'll get a kickback if you do it successfully, telling you that you are registered. That number again, 417-447-KSGF.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see widespread frost, mainly before 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 68. Tonight clear with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71, and on Saturday, sunny with a high near 73.
We were just talking about the Josh Hawley, Lucas Kuntz campaign. This may sound crass and perhaps even unnecessary, but the more that I see, not just the campaign ads, but clips and press releases from Kuntz, who is the Democrat running against Josh Hawley, the more I just think that he's a douchebag.
I agree with
he's
you.
just like such a douche. And I don't know why I'm all of a sudden thinking that. You know, he's run before, and he was even on the show once before when he was running in the primary. And there's just something about him that looks so douchey. And so we had mentioned he was sending out press releases that there was either endorsements or fundraisers with like John Hamm and some other big time celebrity. And I'm thinking to myself, you do know you're in Missouri, right? I mean, it's one thing if you're just trying to get the base excited, but that's not what he needs to do. And maybe this is part of why I think he's a douche, because it's like, how do you not have this stuff figured out? And maybe Missouri Democrats, this is part of the reason they have such a problem here, is knowing your audience. And so yesterday I get a press release, and he's doing some event with Andy Cohen. And I'm like, not that there's anything wrong with Andy. If you're not familiar with Andy Cohen, he actually used to be a CBS correspondent years ago, a reporter. And a lot of time he'll do the New Year's Eve ball drop with Anderson Cooper. They usually get drunk. He's all into like the Real Housewives of this and that, and he's got a show where he brings the celebrities on and they talk about how much they hate each other. It's very catty stuff, and it's very left wingy, but it's just real rich, opulent. It's culturally way, way, way out of touch with the average American, particularly the average Missourian. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? Claire McCaskill at least knew enough to, do the RV thing. She understood the audience. She understood the average Missourian, and that she had to get the middle America Missourian. You got your base locked up. If you want to do sort of a private little behind the scenes fundraiser with some of the hardcore left-wing elites, then that's one thing. But to really send out press releases, and part of me thinks that it's a guy who feels cool because he gets these big celebrities to come hang out with him, and he's more interested in looking cool than strategically doing what is necessary in order to present himself as in line with the average Missourian. Because at the same time, whoever's doing his campaign ads seems to recognize this, because hilariously, he's tying himself to Roy Blunt in ads. There's an ad running in which the Kuntz claims that Josh Hawley doesn't bring any money back. When Roy Blunt was senator, he brought lots of money back to Missouri, and I'm going to be like Roy Blunt. And then he tries to tie himself to Trump, and, like he's some Trump border supporter. And so the campaign ads on one hand are out there trying to mislead people into believing that he's this conservative guy that has Missouri values. But then he goes out and he's like showboating the fact that he has these left-wing, uber-rich Hollywood celebrities that are, trying to get him elected here in Missouri. It's just it's a real disjointed lack of being in touch with the average Missourian. And for somebody that's trying on one hand to present himself as that, while on the other, I think he just can't help it. I think it's a chance for him to hang out with celebrities. And it's like, all of this sudden you're getting the cool kids in school are wanting to hang out with you or letting you hang out with them. And you just can't help but keep talking about it. And maybe that's why I get that douchebag, sort of vibe from the guy. But I don't know. Kamala Harris with Brett Baer. Did not go well for her. You've got two forms of evaluation, same as the debate with Donald Trump. Who won, technically speaking, versus how do the voters perceive it in terms of, or how is it going to affect the way that the voters vote? A lot of the Kamala supporters, they're trying to spin it, and she really held her own, but at the same time, they're claiming she was ambushed, which is ridiculous because there wasn't a single question that wasn't an absolute obvious question that she was going to be asked. The fact, though, that they are trying to make it seem as if she was ambushed is an indication that they recognize it probably didn't come off too well. I think that the voter who is undecided or maybe even leaning towards her did not walk away feeling better, because you cannot explain a single one of her positions now versus before, because as usual she doesn't ever answer any questions. One of the big almost self-sabotaging moments from a couple of weeks ago is when Kamala Harris went on 2 shows and completely threw a wrench into the machinery of her turn the page, I'm the candidate of change, by saying on The View and on Stephen Colbert's show, she was served up this opportunity to knock it out of the ballpark. Okay, what would you do differently? They're trying to help her out. She's like, nothing. Nothing. I wouldn't do anything differently. Brett Baer asked her about that claim, given the context of her opposite claim that she is about changing and turning the page.
You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change.
Yes.
But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Okay. I mean, again, that would have
What
been the
is
good
different?
follow-up question. How?
Yeah, can you give me 2 examples?
But here's another good question. Why? Why not? Now, I imagine her empty calorie response would be, well, because I'm not Joe Biden. Oh, okay. No, obviously. We know that you are 2 different human beings. We all figured that out. Okay? Well, we understand that. We're talking about how the presidency will be run differently. We're talking about what things are going to be done differently. You just keep saying, I'm not Joe Biden. And so this will not be another Joe Biden. Oh, yes, we know that. That is understood. Are you going to continue us on the same path? If the answer is no, why not? You say you wouldn't have done anything differently in the previous 4 years. So why are you going to change that? If you're proud of everything that happened in this first term, why would you then not continue on? If, on the other hand, you are going to do things differently, or if you aren't, why not? And if you are, why? Because you say you're different, you're about change. What she's trying to do here is give an answer that in her mind, everyone can interpret as being an answer they like. So if you have yourself convinced that everything is better, the border's better, world peace is better, the drug problems are better, the economy's better, with her, saying, hey, I wouldn't change a single thing, that gives you reason to support her. If, on the other hand, you recognize the reality of what's going on in the world as a result of the policies of this administration, when she says, hey, I'm not Joe Biden and this will not be a continuation of his presidency, then that gives you some reason to say, oh, okay, I like that, I'll vote for her. The problem with trying to craft positions that cater to opposing sides is generally, instead of winning both sides over, you lose both sides. This is almost the approach she's tried to take between Israel and Hamas, the terrorist organizations, is trying to say things that you think, well, both sides will like me. No, that's not how it works. More of the audio from the Brett Baer Kamala Harris interview coming up. I'm Nick Reed. I've been giving you a heads up the last couple of months about Kansas Territory Brewing making its way into the market. Well, it had already by way of On Tap having some of their offerings at Hammond's Field. But if you wanted it at home, up until recently, well, you'd have to go outside the market to get it. But now in Springfield, Macadoodle's Price Cutters, that thanks to Show Me Beverage, making that available, whether it's the Bradford Light or the Pineapple Life Coach. Pineapple Life Coach, maybe something a little more unique, with the Bradford Light being your more of a go-to beer that you just always have in the fridge ready to go, that you can bring out when you have most people over. Kansas Territory, you can check out, again, their offerings of either Bradford Light, Pineapple Life Coach at Price Cutters and Macadoodles in the area. Kamala Harris, the interview with Brett Baer. One of the other questions that she was asked was about the direction of the country, and the latest polling shows like 79% of Americans say that we are headed in the wrong direction.
Exhausted of Brett.
More than
People
70%
are
of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
If
People
that's the
are tired
case,
of that.
if that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
I love this
This
answer.
is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
What the hell does that have to do with the
That
question? I
That
know,
whole
total.
exchange.
How exhausting. Brett Baer, I think he deserves kudos, whether you like him or not. I think in terms of journalists, he's pretty good. I've always considered him to be about as straightforward as you could be. I know a lot of people see him as anti-Trump, but you just sit and you watch, and it's so exhausting. And the way that he, at times, was so polite with her and saying, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I thought that guy deserves like a Purple Heart of journalism, because you just are wanting to crawl through the TV and choke her. I mean, just so. But I love that it is an obvious question. She presents it as if it's clear. Not just that it's clear, but everyone in America knows that he's the worst person in the world. So the natural question is, well, if everyone knows that, why is it that half of Americans right now say that they want him to be president, not you? Well, it's an election. How do you even follow up with that? Yeah, okay. You're just, those are curtains over there. This is a pencil. None of that has anything to do with the question. Yes, we know it's an election, and elections are hard, but this ought to be an easy one, the way that you claim the American people view Donald Trump. I'm telling you, I do not believe that this was good for her. I can't imagine the Joe Rogan campaign or the Joe Rogan interview happening. I just can't imagine it. Particularly given I don't believe that Joe Rogan would agree to ask questions that they want him to ask. Whether or not he would give her the questions in advance, maybe. But again, some of these are obvious questions. I can't imagine at this point, if I'm the Kamala Harris campaign, not being able to predict the questions that are going to be asked. And it isn't the questions in reality that she needs to worry about so much, but it's the follow-up. And when she's not answering the question. See, this is the difference between a debate and a conversation with a genuinely curious person that's trying to get answers from you. During the debate, and it's why she did well, everything was memorized. And they knew ahead of time at least the theme of the questions. CBS argued, well, we didn't give her the exact questions, but that the theme of the questions were given. So she knew what was coming, and all of the answers were word for word memorized. Well, there really, not a lot of follow-up questions that would occur. That's much different than what Bret Baier did or what Joe Rogan would do. And the Bret Baier interview was supposed to be 25 to 30 minutes, but he acknowledged that they showed up 15 minutes late saying, oh, sorry, we have to cut it down. Maybe you'll get 20 minutes now. And then frantically at some point waving at him to stop the interview. So he said, I had more questions that I wanted to ask. And that was just 20 minutes. Joe Rogan, he'll sit and talk for a couple hours with someone. I could see him agreeing to a time limit. Not too short, just because of the nature of the way that he has conversations. And I think he recognizes that in order to have a meaningful conversation with somebody who wants to be president of the free world, you just can't do that in 20 minutes. You can't do it in 15 minutes. I mean, you're talking about somebody who wants to be president of the United States ought to be able to sit down for 3 hours and have a conversation. Given how poorly it went for Kamala Harris, and I think what they're going to do, they will probably do some internal polling of independent voters or even Kamala Harris-leaning voters, find out if after that interview with Bret Baier, they have changed any, and if it doesn't go their way, which I suspect it would not, then I can't imagine them doing the Joe Rogan interview unless they're at the point of a Hail Mary. Again, where they're like, okay, this is the last-ditch effort, so we're going to lose at this point anyway. We might as well just give it a go. Give it that final kick of the ball and see what happens. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care for all of your car care needs. They're the folks for you. Catastrophic repairs, routine maintenance, whatever it may be, and tires. They do full tires now. Well, I knew that. I've gotten a balance there. No, they sell them as well. So no longer do you have to go to one place to get your tires and then another place to get that oil change. You can do it all at A1 Custom Car Care for all of your car care needs. I'm watching some of these, they keep showing the imagery, and they keep showing the, Kamala with Liz Cheney, and I'm like, maybe I just don't get it. What are you hoping to gain out of that?
Are you asking me?
It's
Good
rhetorical.
morning, it's Christy Fulnecki.
It's rhetorical. People know you by now.
I know that's
I'm
right.
like, why? They're going.
Actually, take a loser out of the Republican Party and then put her next to you. That's not going to help.
And of all people, you take a family that is one of the most demonized and hated families in the Republican Party, and that's who you have campaigning with you. It makes no sense.
Because if you're having someone with you, it should be someone that appeals to someone. And she doesn't appeal to anybody.
I guess warmongers.
It's knocking it out of the park. Come on, she's lost her cackle. Have you noticed that? There's no cackling anymore. She's very whiny. That interview last night, she's very whiny.
Where's all the joy?
Just put it in her campaign.
That's right.
I guess she blew all her joy in the first couple of weeks, and it's just none left.
Yeah, there wasn't any joy to begin with.
She's tired of people asking her, "Why aren't you winning?" I mean, you think about it, you almost
so bad.
Well, this is essentially that's essentially the context of the question that Brett Baer asked. Like he utilized her argument that Donald Trump is the worst person in the world, and he's like, "Well, then why aren't you beating him?" What I mean, I almost wanted him to say, "What does that say about you?"
No.
If he's Hitler and everyone knows that he's the worst person in the world and he's unstable and dangerous, yet according to some polling, even on a national level, more people would rather have him in the White House than you. What does that say about you? That would have been a great way to frame it.
I don't know. That was a total train wreck. But anyone that thought that was a good idea, I mean, you have to be.
I really hope she does Joe Rogan.
Well, you wonder what the conversation. I know. He's gonna destroy her.
I don't think she will.
I mean,
I don't think she will either.
Now they're complaining how hard. I mean, Brett Baer. I mean, that guy was so polite.
He didn't
during the interview. Yeah. There's no way that
it was an ambush. What?
That's what a straightforward interview. That's what journalism is supposed to be. By the way.
Well, no, because according to mainstream media, what he should have done is picked her up and sat her on his lap and then brushed her hair, telling her how pretty she is, and then picked her up and carried her across the finish line. That's what he should have done. And asked questions like, "You're the most amazing woman of color ever. Why is Donald Trump Hitler? How is it that you managed to maintain your dignity in the face of such horrible Americans who refuse to not be racist?" Those are the questions she was supposed to be asked.
It's so crazy. You wonder, they must live in a bubble, because it's not like these are surprise questions. I mean, look at everything else everyone's asked you, and you still go back and you don't have an answer. And so, it's not a pop quiz. I mean, what they're gonna, the questions already, even if they don't directly give you the questions. I mean, you've been in office for 3.5 years. What have you done? I mean, these are basic,
increasingly
questions. It just shows you that she's not asked this ever.
Increasingly, it just is becoming more and more apparent that she is just an idiot.
She is a total idiot.
Because, again, it's not like these are surprise questions. Even, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking to myself, one of the questions she was asked is, do you feel that you owe an apology because of your border policies of these parents who, and there was one in particular, they played audio in which the mother, I think it was of Laken Riley,
Laken Riley.
Laken Riley. There we go. Thank you. Who the 12-year-old was just horrific thing, the hand of illegal immigrants. And so she testified before Congress, and she said, it's, the Biden-Harris administration released him upon us, and this is why my daughter's dead. So he asked, do you think you owe an apology? And she wouldn't bring herself to say it. She's like, well, I'm sorry that, that happened or something. But the easy answer is, this is so easy, is, yeah, I do apologize. I'm sorry that we have a broken system. I'm sorry, because you can say it in a way that doesn't take responsibility for it, but at the same time you're acknowledging there's a problem. But I don't know, it's the way I think she's an idiot.
She is sorry. I mean, I don't think she
No,
wants
I
to
think-
apologize
well,
for
sure.
I think she wants to apologize for anything. And she's not authentic at all. And that's one thing that people can tell, especially everyday Americans, which like I said, they're in a bubble and they're around elites all the time. So they're not going to know this, but people can tell when you're not authentic and when you're being fake. And and you can't even be real about someone that died, because of her policies, but even besides that, she could have spun it a different way.
Well, we're going to get news, weather as well. Then I do want to play the audio in which Brett Barron, I'm glad he asked this question. When did you realize something was wrong with Joe Biden?
And can I say something really
Yeah.
fast? Hello to my daughter, Abby. She's at the Naval Academy getting ready to work out.
I
And
can
she
tell you.
downloaded the app, and I told her I would say hi to her.
I have $20 that says she did not.
Abby, we're proud of you, but you're probably not listening.
If she texts you before the show is over saying, yes, I heard it, then I will owe you $20. Latest news update.
You owe her
I
$20.
owe Christy $20. I owe you $20.
Are you?
To you, I owe you $20.
Yeah, you better pay up.
It didn't take her long. Well, there's not much lag time on the stream, clearly. I didn't get the words out of my mouth before she's texting you.
You're on.
All right, let's do the weather.
The first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see widespread frost mainly before 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 68. Tonight clear with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71, and Saturday sunny with a high near 73.
Chrissy Fonecki with us.
I don't see my $20.
I don't carry cash.
She will take it in Bitcoin.
You have to at least explain that I won that bet.
I did when we...
No, on the air.
We were on the air earlier when we were talking about it.
I know, but she texted me back and she was listening.
I know. Then we talked about it when your headphones were off.
Oh, you were still on?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's why she did the weather. What do you think she was doing the weather for her health?
Just wanted to know if it was going to be cold.
Well, she said and I said, yeah, I owe $20.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were on that.
Well,
oh,
good Lord.
I wasn't paying attention.
You interacted with us.
I know, because I was just talking.
Man alive.
Ooh, that was a close one. I didn't know that. Good thing I didn't.
They're like, if I went out to your car, there are going to be a bunch of empty spray paint cans on the floorboard or something. I mean, what is going on? Speaking of, this is a appropriate clip to play. Brett Baer asking Kamala Harris when it was she recognized that there was cognitive decline in Joe Biden.
See this, Vice President. You, Donald Trump, you call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
When he pooped his pants.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people. Joe Biden, Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump.
Well, she keeps saying, well, he's not on the ballot, but this is about your credibility. You told Americans, don't worry, he's fine. Not only is he fine, but he's better than ever. That was you. Yeah. This is your credibility we're talking about here.
So why was he pushed out of your party?
I mean, the thing is...
That's the next... Nobody's asked her those questions?
You know, the question really, ultimately, is, are you just going to fess up and be honest and admit what we all know? And that is that you were lying about this. Obviously, she knew. I mean, everyone knows. This is part of the theatrics that is so ridiculous. And I don't blame him for asking the question at all, because I think it should be asked. But everyone knows she knew. Everyone knew she was lying. Yeah. Everyone knew that and including. But here's the other question. Well, what do you think about him right now? Because he is president right now. We got Iran developing nuclear weapons. Right. We got the situation with Ukraine. We got our own border. We have a lot of things going on. He is still president of the United States. Do you believe he is cognitively fit enough to be president right now? That would have been another great question.
Why is he sitting on the beach for half the time that he's been president? So where is he? And then if you're campaigning, who actually is running the country? So I don't know if you heard that question. I think it was maybe Glenn Beck's interview with Trump. And he asked him who he thought was running the country. And Trump said, I think it's a committee of people. But he said, I think that even that committee, they don't really know who's in charge.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, that is so frightening.
There is no leadership. But this is also what I believe is the problem with Kamala Harris. And it has always been, whether it is campaigns that are incoherent or a 92% turnover rate in her office, because there's no leadership. And when you don't have leadership, you have other people who are trying to make decisions. You have no one that even in a leadership position to say, okay, you're the one that gets to make these decisions. So you have infighting. Then you have people that end up getting frustrated and leaving. And so I believe that that's the entire atmosphere of this administration. Well, I think he's right on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a total train wreck. I mean, she is a total train wreck.
Buttigieg!
I know, that's right. I mean, that summarizes their whole administration. It's because before you run for something, you have to think through your mind, okay, am I going to appease the crazies in my own party So am I going to defend everything that we've done in our administration? Am I going to, move forward or whatever their slogan is, and then try to make myself seem different than what's happened? Like Biden and I were fighting and he wouldn't take my advice. I mean, you at least have to come up with a theme of what you're going to run on. But the problem is she has no idea. I think she's just an idiot. I think she's stupid.
She is too.
And I every day I go to court, I mean almost every day, and think, how in the world was that woman practicing law? And California is a hard bar. How did she do that? And how was she the attorney general? If I'm living in California, I would think, how in the world was she attorney general in my state? And the woman can't even hold her own in an interview. It's not in an argument.
Well,
I mean, she could be in front of a judge.
Partially answer that question, I saw an exchange I thought was interesting, and it was on the 5. And Harold Ford Jr., who's a Democrat, supporter of Kamala Harris, was talking about her record as prosecutor. And Judge Jean Perino, yeah, that's right. No, Judge, what's her last? I always get Dana Perino. I always get Perino. Judge, wait, anyway. Pirro. Judge Pirro.
Is that
yeah, I think that's right.
Well,
Anyway, yeah. But she said to Harold, do you even know if she's ever herself been in the courtroom? And he's like, well, no. And she goes, I don't know that she ever has. And this is something that a number of people have said, that there's no evidence that she's actually herself ever been in a courtroom before. She was Willie Brown's side piece, so he got her that local prosecutor position, and then she was good enough at doing what she did with him to where he was the kingmaker, and then she made her way into the attorney general's position with him being the kingmaker. And so there's no evidence that she actually has ever even been in a courtroom.
And I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago because when you're elected those positions, a lot of times you're not the one that's going in and arguing. And especially if you're the attorney general, I mean, you're just kind of a figurehead and you have assistants that are working. With the way that she performed last night, and that's what, a regular interview is supposed to be. It wasn't an ambush. She would never be able to stand in front of a judge and argue a case. Never. There's no way. Even in here in Greene County, with the questions they ask you, there is no way that she would even be able to respond.
I would love,
she's not
though,
answering any of the questions directly.
I could see her up there if she was in court, and then the defense, objects and says, Your Honor, there's no gives some legal argument, and then her response is, Judge, this is a courtroom.
These jurors are
here
right now
in this courtroom.
What time is lunch?
I mean, that's probably how it would roll. But I think it's a serious question. Maybe Trump will start asking her openly, has she ever even been in a courtroom? She keeps talking about being a prosecutor. Has she ever actually herself been in a courtroom prosecuting a case?
Yeah. Oh,
and prosecuting. Now, I think, she may have been in there to observe some high-profile cases, but being the one that actually carries it out, there doesn't appear to be any evidence of that. I have some really weird audio from Bill Clinton coming up. Ethel Kennedy died, apparently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And there was this funeral for her, and Obama was there, Biden was there, Clinton was there. I mean, like all of it's really weird. It just didn't get more coverage. But I wanted to play some audio from Bill Clinton, which is just weird. I don't even know what it's supposed to mean, but given his background, it's off-putting a bit for him to have said that. So we've got that, plus more with Christy Fulnecki this morning. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. I'm beginning to think Bill Clinton is losing it a bit. Last week, and he was at a Kamala Harris event talking about how the 12-year-old would not have been raped and murdered by illegals if they had been properly vetted and then not let into the country, which is like right there is a Donald Trump campaign ad.
yeah.
So very unusual. Then you have this Ethel Kennedy funeral that took place, and Biden was there. And Obama was there, Pelosi was there, Clinton was there, and Clinton, among other things, had the following to say about Kennedy.
And I doubt that I can, but I will tell you this. I thought your mother was a cat's meow. She would flirt with me in the most innocent ways. I remember once I said, we're not at replacement population anymore. And all the politics are anti-immigrant. What are we going to do? I said, we need more people like you.
I mean,
what?
This is at her funeral.
He had a senior moment.
She's always flirting with me, and it sounds like he's saying we should repopulate. He's like, we're not repopulating enough, and maybe we need more people like you. What?
Okay, he's totally losing it.
Well, given his, background as a serial sexual harasser and accused rapist, I don't know that I would be
more of who he is. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be like one of those people that, you're going to put him in a nursing home. He's going to be hitting on all the, employees and the people in the nursing home.
I wonder how old he is. How old is he?
Well, isn't he like 75?
78.
78.
Oh, okay. I was close.
So he's only a few years behind Biden then. He's old.
I don't know. Biden seems like
older
he's
than I thought.
Over 100.
Well, how old's Trump? Trump's 70.
Isn't he 70? Trump's the same age, isn't he?
Trump's
Trump
78.
just seems so much. It's crazy to me.
It's not the age.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's not.
But
It doesn't have anything to do with that. Because there's 70-year-olds that are out there running and that are in good shape and that can.
But it's funny because after the billionaire donors overturned Biden's election and bought the nomination for Harris, they all of a sudden they're like, Trump's too old. And you look at other people his age and how young he is compared to them.
Yeah.
Just in his looks and his constantly going nonstop. His ability. He acts like he's in his mid-50s.
And even during this campaign cycle, he looks like he's getting younger. And even with being shot and the assassination, you would think everything that he's been through that he would look terrible, and he looks good. And actually, when he was with Bloomberg and doing that interview, I thought he looks very confident, very relaxed. To compare both those candidates, there's no comparison. The great thing about, I think, this cycle too, is that there's so much footage of Kamala talking through the years, which I guess you don't pay attention because she was vice president, but there's just so much to go back and compare when you're lying. And that's why I'm thinking, okay, well, you don't have any kids of your own except for,
It tells you something.
Yeah, so you're going to lie knowing that people can look this up, and then you don't even want to be a good role model because you could seriously go back and look at your previous videos to know you're lying. About what you're talking about.
It tells us all something that it is her opposition that is constantly trying to make sure people know what she has said.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And when she's doing these interviews, it's not her campaign that's pushing out the clips. It's the Trump campaign. What does that tell you? Yeah. That just like the Trump war room team, they're just like, bam, here's what she said, here's what she said, here's what she said. And meanwhile, her team's like, she was ambushed. Okay. Christy Filnecki, more in moments. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see widespread frost mainly before 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 68. Tonight, clear with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 73.
Review having Emily Johnson with House Theory Realty represent us was a wonderful experience. She's incredibly professional and thorough. Her communication with us, superb. I'm sure she worked with many clients at once, but she had a special way of making my husband and I feel like we were her top only clients. Her advice and support helping us really narrow down our search area and home needs was invaluable. She was polite, available, friendly, very knowledgeable. She always seemed to ask the great questions I didn't even think to ask. This is the real estate agent you want on your side. I look forward to working with Emily again in the future should our home needs change. That's Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, and you can find her, KSGF.com, under Nick's endorsements. There's been a common, what essentially has been a train wreck on air throughout this hour, and it began with Christy Fulnecki, who's here, talking about how her daughter was she had downloaded the app to listen this morning. I said, I guarantee you she did not download the app and she's not listening. And I said, if she texts, because she's not in the area, so she would have to listen on the stream. So if she texts before this next commercial breaks over, then I'll owe you $20. Well, she texted. So, I guess she was listening. I was wrong. I was wrong. And so then Sarah tries to call me out and tell me to give you the $20, and I'm like, I don't carry cash on me. So then, on top of that, my wife texts. Well, no, wait. Oh, let me back up. There's another part of the train wreck. So we talk about on air how her daughter texted and I owed $20. Then we go to a break. We come back, and then Christy's like, "Are we going to talk about that on air?" It's like, we just did. We had the whole conversation on air. Christy didn't even know we were on air somehow. Which, thank goodness, she stayed within the rails. Then my wife texts you and says, I do carry cash on me. So I called her a traitor. And her response was what?
Can I say that?
Yes.
Hoes before bros.
Yeah. This is a support. I get a lot of.
And here's the thing. I have not seen you reach for your wallet. Not once. Not once.
We're still waiting. Aren't we on, what is it, YouTube?
You don't even know what you're talking about.
We are, yes.
The line on the YouTube.
Yeah. We're on the YouTube internet. If you can log on to the World Wide Web, www.youtube.com.
Well, your wife is on my side. That's all I have to say. You lost that. You're having a bad day.
$20 out of her wallet.
Yeah.
Report, I love this. Trump to visit a McDonald's and work the fry cooker. Have you seen this? Former President Donald Trump will visit a McDonald's in the swing state of Pennsylvania on Sunday and work the fry cooker, according to reports. A source familiar with the matter tells CNN. This comes up as Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed Vice President Kamala Harris never actually worked at McDonald's. I'm surprised they don't say without evidence. But, they don't ever say.
Oh, yeah.
Now, she's claimed that she worked at McDonald's without evidence. But, that's okay. She can claim whatever she wants without evidence. But if Trump notes that there's no evidence, he doesn't provide evidence that there's no evidence. See, that's how that works. Yeah. A source familiar with the matter also previewed the plan to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Indeed, Trump previewed this move during his speech in late September, doubting Harris's claim that she once worked at McDonald's. Trump said, I think I'm going to go to a McDonald's in 2 weeks, actually. And I'm going to work the French fries because...
She's such a savage.
Let me finish the quote. This is the first time I've read this. He said, I think I'm going to a McDonald's in 2 weeks, actually, and I'm going to work the French fries because I will have worked longer and harder at McDonald's than she did if I do that, even for half an hour.
But she did.
This is what
classic.
This, though, is what is so fantastic about Trump and what has to be so frustrating for Democrats. They've tried to portray him as this out-of-touch billionaire, right? They're like, you think Donald Trump's never done this or never done that? Donald Trump can go do this. And somehow it's humorous, it's fun, it doesn't seem awkward at all. It's just like a fun time. If Kamala tried to do this, it would be so cringy, so clear that it was fake. But this, again, is a difference in confidence. Trump is confident in any setting whatsoever. You can put him anywhere, and he doesn't. You can just tell he's perfectly at home. And he just has a good time. He's comfortable around people.
And he's really funny. I mean, it's genuinely funny.
And then,
I mean,
and of course, on the other side, you have Kamala Harris, and they have to pre-set up this fake interaction in a gas station where she's looking for Doritos. Do you know where the Doritos are? And then Doug's over there thinking about, how much he'd just like to clock her. And he's like, oh, I found Doritos. Oh, thanks, Dougie. You found Doritos. It's just so cringy.
Well, and when she was walking around, she would look so awkward. Like she didn't know what she was supposed to be doing. And that was after when Trump went in that Chick-fil-A and he was talking to everybody. And then I think that was when wasn't Biden still running then, and he tried to go in and do the same thing. I don't remember.
I don't think it was a Chick-fil-A, but there was a bodega situation because Trump had gone into a bodega and same situation. So then Biden shows up at one, and it turned out to be the grocery store that his administration was suing for racism.
Yeah.
So he decided to give them some free press, I guess. And it's so fake, and that has to be so frustrating to them.
Because they're probably like, how did he come up with this?
Or how does he do this? And people, why can't we do this? How come when we do this, we get mocked for being cringy? It looks bad.
They don't know. They don't even understand regular people. Like they don't understand. Well, my driver went to get my food. Like, I'm not going to walk into a McDonald's. So they can't, and the funny thing is, I bet you money, and I would actually pay the money if I lost, by the way. But anyway.
Sure, I have no idea who that's a dig towards.
I would bet you money that Trump came up with that McDonald's thing himself, because in his books, he talks about all of the things that he would go in his company, that he would go and check out and work and help people at different levels of his company. And he talked about, I remember in one of his books, I haven't read it in like 10 or 15 years, but how even like the light bulbs being out, he would go change light bulbs. He was very particular about all the details of his hotels.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris had a rule when she was Attorney General that you don't look her in the eye and you refer to her as General whenever she arrives.
Really?
Yeah, there was an op-ed piece when she was first running for president from somebody that used to be a supporter of hers, and his son got an internship in her office. And so his son was really, really excited. They were excited for him. But then after working there a couple months, the son was like, this place is a nightmare. She's crazy. And these are supporters of her. And you're not allowed to look her in the eye. Whenever she arrives, everyone like in unison has to say, good morning, General. And so that's the difference between Trump and Kamala.
And that's personalities. So no matter what her campaign does, they're not going to, if she's elitist and looks down on normal people, they're not going to change that, because that's going to come through on your personality with whatever situation you're in.
But all she has to do is find a bag of Doritos and drink the champagne of beers with Stephen Colbert, and she's one of us.
Oh, like Elizabeth Warren when she tried to drink a beer. Wasn't that her when she was trying to drink the...
Oh, it was a real random, hey, will you go get me a beer over there?
And then,
yeah, she's not an elitist.
Get the top of this thing off. Is it like pop off or? Well, and I just think like the more that you learn about Trump, the more people like him. Like another thing, I don't know why I'm thinking about all this, but in his books, like when he talks about he would work harder, he would talk about like going into somebody's office to ask a question, or the people would go to his office to have meetings, and he said he would never go out to lunch, that he would make he did not like meetings, and he with the government you have so many meetings. And he tried to streamline his whole day, and there was a lot of detail in there about like, I hate meetings. If you come in, you have to get to the point. I'm not wasting time. I mean, he's so efficient.
Well, that was one of the biggest hang-ups and conflicts with the establishment when he first got elected, because every day the president would get briefings from the CIA, and he had said, if you don't have anything new, we don't need to meet. And they
Yes,
were
yeah,
so offended by
yeah.
that because they're so important. But that shows his mindset, which is the antithesis of most people in government. And that is, we have things to do. Let's not do things that are not meaningful. We don't need to have a meeting if all you're going to do is brief me on the exact same thing we briefed yesterday. And they did not like that at all. That was the first public tiff that we saw between the elites and Trump, was because of that attitude.
Yeah,
that he
and that's just something ingrained in his personality and how he built such, a great business. And the meeting with each of the cabinet members, and can you imagine him and Elon Musk together, like talking to, Secretary of Education or somebody, like, justify your department to me, and how are we going to cut like half your employees?
Right. Chrissy Fulnecki with us. More coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Chrissy Fulnecki with us. You were talking about being out of touch, and this story. I printed this off yesterday because I thought it was an interesting story, and it helps illustrate something. And Al Pacino has, I think he's got a new book that is coming out, or it came out, and part of the revelation is that at one point he was flat broke. He lost $50 million after an accountant mismanaged his earnings. And that's why he started acting. And he talked about how he actually, at the same time, he used to just go give these like free seminars and stuff. And he started charging for them at college campuses. And he evidently made a lot of money because he was just broke. And he talks about how he said, I was broke. I had 50 million and then I had nothing. I had property, but I didn't have any money. In this business, when you make 10 million for a film, it's not actually 10 million because of the lawyers and taxes and so forth. He said the kind of money I was spending and where it was going was just a crazy montage of loss. The landscaper was getting $400,000 a year, and I don't exaggerate these things. It just went on and on. Mind you, that was for a landscaping at a house that I didn't even live in. He said, this is part of the interview, I wasn't even signing my own checks. The accountant signed them, and I just let them go by. I wasn't looking, and he didn't tell me how much I had or where it was going. I wasn't keeping track of who got what. It was all about, let's keep this dumb actor going on, and I was keeping track of who got what. It was all about, let's keep this dumb actor happy, just keep him working, and we'll reap. So what I thought that this was interesting because it helps, I believe, people understand why it is that these rich celebrities do not have a problem with the economy doing poorly. Because here he's explaining that, and he got ripped off because of it. They don't handle their own money.
Well, yeah,
they
that's a good
have
point, yeah.
people that pay the bills. They have people who, and he's illustrating how much he was getting ripped off because of this. And I think that it helps people understand that when you have the Jennifer Garners and the, the Andy Cohens for Kuntz, or, just all of these rich celebrities come out, they can afford these policies. It does not, so they can virtue signal all they want.
And they can afford
feel
these
good about,
walls.
and
they can build a wall and have security with guns.
And it's because they aren't going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And even if they were, it would not impact them in the same way. But so they don't have to go through what lower and middle class Americans do. And I just thought that it was an interesting revelation by Al Pacino, and how it was that the reason that it was so easy to completely rip him off and leave him penniless is because people in his position don't even handle their own money.
Yeah.
And that helps explain. I mean, if you don't have to do all that stuff, if you aren't worried about how much money you're going to have come Thursday, Friday, will you have enough money to buy food and groceries? It's real easy to support Biden. It's real easy to support Harris. It's real easy to support these Democrats.
Yeah, and plus you're not physically like pumping your own gas, so you have no concept of how much things are. You're not going to the grocery store, so you don't know how the price has changed so much just in the past 3 or 4 years.
And
like,
even
you have no concept.
Even if you are, and I was reading this other interview, and I think it was from some time ago. It was about Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend, and when they had broken up, there were these rumors that had to do with money, and she said he was stingy, and she did a podcast recently with Angel Reese talking about how, that stuff wasn't true. But he had responded at one point also saying it wasn't true, and he was talking about how, I'd go out to buy, or she was going to go buy, go drive through and give her 100 or whatever. And he was just talking about how they never really paid attention to money, and that it was nothing, for him to give her 100 to go get something. And to the average person, that is not how life is.
Yeah.
And so you see how it is that really wealthy people, I'm talking really wealthy, to where $100 is 50 cents to you and I. That, again, these policies don't really affect them. They don't hurt them. So they get to vote on just their feelings.
Yeah, and like I said before about the wall and everything, you can apply that to anything going on in the country, because they could say, well, what do you mean? Like, people are burning my city to the ground and there's crime. I mean, I don't see that. Because like basically I'm protected. And I thought of that like when we drove by, what's it called? I think is it Chelsea? There's a neighborhood in Georgetown where the Obamas have their house, and there's a huge wall around it.
Of course.
And actually, Trump's daughter lived in the same neighborhood, but you can't even like see their house, and it's very well protected and everything. And I thought, oh, yeah, they're really living with the average American. Like, they understand the plight.
Well, and aside from the economic aspect of it, they also have armed security, while at the same time trying to pass laws where you and I, who can't afford armed security, aren't allowed to protect ourselves with firearms.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is their life. They are the kings and queens. We are their servants. It's a Hunger Games style situation where they get all the trappings. They get to have all of the, and I'm perfectly fine with people being extremely wealthy. But when you then try to put people in power that economically hurt the rest of us, the normal people, that's when I start to have a real problem.
Yeah, and that's an interesting conversation because, well, we're talking, but the other one is because if you look at similar people, like other millionaire and billionaires. And then you look at Trump, like Trump never changed like that and didn't become an elitist.
Right.
So he can still relate to other people. I mean, I'm sure Elon Musk can walk down the street. I mean, is a normal person. So it's just
Well,
interesting.
I don't
how
know that he's normal, but he never has been.
Yeah.
Money,
I mean,
money arguably did not change him.
yeah, right. And that's my point, is that
Yeah.
some people have stayed the same, and many of the people, don't inherit their money, so they had to make it somehow, but somehow they changed and just became elitists and looked down on us peons that vote.
Quick traffic update, more
Yes.
with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. We got Author of the Week in the upcoming hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. A couple minutes left here with Christy Fulnecki this morning.
Yes, it's been very fun.
It has been very fun.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but Trump is planning a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York.
Oh, yeah. I heard
And
that.
these anti-Trump people, including Lincoln Project and Mark Hamill, who's an extreme left-winger, they are out there trying to get, and they've done this before, as many of the anti-Trump people as possible to sign up for free tickets and then not attend, so that people who want to see Trump aren't able to, and then also that the media can then spread this disinformation campaign that not that many people showed up. Well, one, go ahead and try it. It's not going to work, but because there's always going to be people standing outside that want to get in.
Yeah, right,
anyway.
right.
But if you notice, Trump supporters never do this. You don't ever have Trump supporters try and sabotage Democrat events, sabotage Democrat rallies. They don't try and sign up as many non-Democrats as possible so that the event looks empty. And I think it just goes a lot to the character of these people.
That they cheat. I mean, everything they're doing is cheating. Like, you can't win on your own merits.
No.
I know.
I mean, it's short.
Well,
but even,
actually, we don't even know what the merits are to begin with.
When they do this stuff, it shows that they know that too.
Yeah.
This is an acknowledgement when they do stuff like this, when they try to censor information, when they do anything to mislead people, it's because they know that they cannot win straight up and legitimate. And this is for the city. 10 seconds.
Definitely. She just wants to say, I love all you extreme, crazy, left-wing liberals. And I just want to be, it's frustrating for her because she wants to be able to talk to them and say that she agrees with everything that they want, free everything for illegals. But she's probably so
out of
angry
time.
and whiny.
Thanks. Bye. Wilder RV, get ready to winterize that baby. If you do have an RV, maybe you don't have one. What a great Christmas gift to yourself, to your family. Some of those end-of-the-year deals at Wilder RV in Clinton, Missouri, north of Springfield on 13. They're great people. You can check out their website. They do have a great website. Financing is available, very transparent stuff. In fact, one of the things that they do not do is upcharge you on things. You know how that is. A lot of times you purchase something big and they're like, oh, it'll be this much, and that breaks down to this much a month. Well, then you get in there signing the paperwork, and then they start telling you about these fees they have to put on there, and they're like, yeah, we don't have any choice, nothing we can do about it. Well, yeah, it would have been nice if you told me that before I agreed to this. They don't do any of that stuff. The pricing you see is the price you get. There aren't any pickup fees. There aren't any prep fees. Like, well, we had to go in and get this ready and that ready. In fact, they give you like $200 or $250 in gift certificates for their shop that has, anything and everything that an RVer could need. So they kind of have that opposite approach going on. That's Wilder RV. You can find them at wilderrv.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com, where you can win some things. Let's talk about that quickly. We have 2 different things at KSGF.com you can sign up for. One is another private showing at Alamo Drafthouse, Saturday, October 26th. The Hunt. It is a movie that came out several years ago, sort of Halloween-y in the sense that it's, I guess you'd call it a thriller. It is violent. If you don't like violent movies, I would not sign up for this. But it is sort of at the same time, a dark satire with a political bent to it. It's a good movie. I like it, and so that's why I chose it. And if you haven't seen it, then I think that you will enjoy it as well. With your pair of tickets, should you win for our private screening on the October 26th date, you also get popcorn and drinks. And then, of course, if you want to buy dinner or buy yourself some alcoholic beverages, you can do that as well. So that sign up is at ksgf.com. And something perhaps a little different, festive, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The musical, it is part of the Great Southern Bank Broadway season, and you can catch the shows between the 4th and 7th of November, and you can see how to win tickets for that at ksgf.com. And then finally, text to win, Hotel of Terror and Dungeons of Doom. If you win, then you get passes to both. That is in Springfield, of course, and got the little hayride that goes back and forth between the two. That is a text to win. So to get registered for that, you text the Pyramid Roofing Company. Talk and text line 417-447-KSGF. And the keyword is monster. Is that
That is correct.
All right. So just text the word monster, MONSTER. You probably know how to spell it. News update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68. Tonight clear with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 73.
And it's Thursday, which means it's Author of the Week time, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. And our author today, U.S. Army war veteran and entrepreneur who currently owns a successful Corvette car dealership. We'll learn about that path coming up. The book is The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. And Mr. Ernest is with us as our author of the week. I thank you for being with us. And start out. What made you decide to write the book?
Thank you very much for having me this morning. What started out was the journey was that my friends and family had always asked me to talk to people that were joining the military and just give me my 2 cents worth of what I thought about kids, 18, 19, 20-year-olds were contemplating having military service. And then that led to recommendations from people to just document it, and then my story and my encouragement from my wife and family, and it just took off from there.
What is your story, if you would?
My story is real simple, real easy. I was a 17-year-old kid that grew up in a tough area in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I got something called the Army College Fund. And what that is, you get extra money if you join the military if you take a job that others don't want to do. Something like infantry, armor, combat engineer, and so forth. And I got that money thinking I was going to go into the Army for 2.5, 3 years and get out and go to school and, move on with my life. And 6 months later, after I joined, I was in Saudi Arabia in Operation Desert Storm. And that experience completely transformed my life from just a person trying to take to a person that just appreciated everything in life and wanted to find a way to experience the blessings I have in life that was every second of the day. And then later, I stayed in the Army for 18, 19 years, and I wound up having some of the best mentors, some of the best leaders you could ever imagine, and made some positive changes in my life. And I wanted to share that with the rest of the world, and hopefully people that read the book can make some changes in their life too that can be positive impact from the book that I wrote.
I have a nephew that recently enlisted, and he sent his first postcard home after, I think, a week or two of not being able to communicate with the family. And part of the postcard said, "I think I made a mistake." And my dad told my brother, he goes, "Well, he's not the only one, having family that's been through it, and they know." Do you think this is a book that's good if you have perhaps a young person in their life and they're thinking about joining the military, they don't know what to expect? Is this a good book for them? And if it is, who else? Or if not, who is this a good book for?
And that's a great question. That was kind of the framework when I wrote the book, was trying to put that message out there, what it's like, because I was one of those kids that you talked about too. You leave and you think you make a mistake because it's so hard, it's so challenging, it's so hard on the soul, if you will, having to go through that experience of the breakdown to become a new person. But I wrote it thinking that was the framework was showing people that maybe weren't in the military, and then later it turned into all the things in my life that I've made positive changes on, such as continuing my schooling, slowing down on the drinking, later quitting drinking alcohol, quitting smoking. Back in my day, because I'm 52, it was cool to smoke in the military, and everybody smoked. And now we learn that it killed you. So we're on this big kick where we don't smoke, and eating healthy, all these good things that I learned from being in the military that I was able to document, put in the book, and then hopefully people can read what worked for me and how I changed things in my life so that they too can make changes in their life. And most importantly about the book is all the proceeds and royalties go to veterans groups and agencies that I support. So that was my way to try to find a way to give something back to those that don't have the resources to take care of themselves right now. And my backdrop for the book was trying to find a way that I could contribute. I could do something I've always wanted to, but I never have a avenue to do so, and that was my way to do it.
We are talking with our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, the book, The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas Ernst, the author, Douglas Ernst, Ernest himself. One of the things that I've learned, you talk about these different organizations. We work with the Warrior's Journey, and one of the areas that they do a lot of work with are those who are veterans that come back and transition. And we talk so much about those who are going into the military and sort of, kind of maybe giving them an idea of what is to come, how to prepare for it. But perhaps what there isn't oftentimes a lot of discussion is even before they going in isn't necessarily, obviously that is a big change, but also coming back out can be a big change. And getting back into civilian life can be a real struggle for people who have served, particularly if they've seen combat. And part of your book and part of your journey has been getting out there and having a love for cars and Corvettes in particular. Tell us about that, if you would.
Wow, that's funny that you said that, because that sounds like my story. I came out after 3 years of service, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to go to college and so forth, and when I went back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there wasn't a lot of opportunity, and it after seeing the world, it put a different opulence on what you think that you can achieve. And the small manufacturing town of Milwaukee, where it's freezing cold and you only have 3 months of summer, that just wasn't what I envisioned for myself the rest of my life. So I wound up trying to find other things to do with my life, and that led to getting a scholarship at Texas Christian University, compliments of the U.S. Army, and then that led to furthering my education. And finally, when I had gotten out of college, I couldn't get a job because I signed up for this wonderful scholarship that there's only 50 of them in the country back then. And what that was, it was the Army Reserve Scholarship. And back then, and what's happened for most reservists over the last 20, 30 years, is reservists are not treated as reservists. They don't just go weekends. They just don't go summers. They go all the time. Whenever the military needs you, they mobilize you. So I found myself being mobilized, going to schools, being used for anything that they needed me to do. And it wasn't just 2 days a month and 2 weeks in the summer. It was more like 6 to 8 to 9 months a year. And I couldn't get a job. So I couldn't get a civilian job because nobody would want to hire you. No, you wouldn't be there. So I wound up dabbling in small little entrepreneurial ventures. I tried landscaping companies. I tried home remodeling. I tried glass. I tried pool repair. I tried auto service centers. I tried vending machines, ATM machines. I tried all these small little businesses that didn't cost a lot of money to start, and I wasn't successful at it. But I had a passion for the Corvettes, where I grew up as a kid idolizing my uncle, who was a Vietnam veteran who had a Corvette, and I wanted to get a Corvette. And I don't know how in the world the Lord put me on that path, but I wound up being around people that had Corvettes. I had started my business with 3 Corvettes, a credit card, and 18% interest. And that's how I started my business, in a small little shop with $1,200 a month rent. And that led to me dedicating my life, my soul, my energy. I was doing 18-hour days, 6-7 days a week back then. And then when I go to the Army, back to be mobilized for the reserves, I'd shut it down and I'd go to the Army for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and come back and turn it on and put it back together. And the book talks about that. And it talks about that for people that, are self-employed, or people that are considering being self-employed, how I was able to do it, especially in the challenges of adversity of trying to do it while you're simultaneously serving in the Army Reserve as they mobilize you. So my story was, it was tough. It was hard. I look back and I go, oh my gosh, how did I do that? And I look back now as a kid that was in the Army for almost 20 years. And then I, had this Corvette dealership that now is the largest Corvette dealership in the Southwest. And I'm so blessed. I'm so just honored to be able to have the chance to serve the customers that I have. But it's a way that I learned it was from having great leaders, having great mentors, reading books such as this. I didn't just figure it out on my own. I read a lot of books. I went to school, and I read books on business and how to grow a business. And that's how I did this whole facet of my life. And I want people to be able to understand it. I want my children to understand how I did it. And I want people that have the same desires and dreams, that want to do something more with their life, to be able to do so. And in that book, I believe I nailed it, where I tell you how you can do it yourself. It's not just something that you can, you just don't stumble upon. It's something you have to work hard for, work smart for, work efficiently, and you can do so because if a kid from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with zero opportunity ahead of them, with nothing to do it, anybody in this great nation can also do it.
What a climate and culture change from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Texas.
It was like the Lord just put the sunshine on my face and said, "Go to work, young man." It was, I think when I left Milwaukee, Wisconsin in January of 93, 92, somewhere in that era, it was like 25 below zero and a foot of snow. And when I got to Texas, it was 70 degrees and the sun was shining and it was beautiful. And I was in the pool at the apartment complex. So the transformation of life, how the Lord puts you on these different journeys. And I hope that my story can inspire those that are considering military service, those that are considering starting a business, those that want to make changes in their life. As I mentioned, the smoking, the drinking, the overeating, the things that I used to do when I was younger that I was able to change in my life. And I hope that people can use these tactics, these strategies, and methodologies that I've documented to be able to make those changes in their life, and that the story can inspire them to do so. And that's whether you want to make a change in yourself personally, start your own business, or if you just want to be a better father, better parent, better spouse, someone that you can just make improvement in your life and continue to do so over a long period of time.
We are talking with our author, Douglas Ernest, the book, The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. Glenn Beck, one of our hosts, in fact, his show comes on right after this one, and he has The Blaze. And I wanted to ask you before we let you go, I know you had written a piece for The Blaze regarding Tim Walz and claims about his time in the military. Tell us about that, if you would.
And it was a huge story when it came out, and it kind of died off now. You know, I'm a huge Glenn Beck fan. I've been a fan of his for over 20 years. I grew up thinking he was just the most coolest person, trying to put the stories out there and give people a true sense of what's really going on in the world, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. And I've been a huge fan of his. And to be able to know that I'm going to be talking on the show before he comes on, I just think that that's such an honor, and I thank you so much for that. With Tim Walz, what was extremely disappointing is, you know, most of us that served in the military, we downplay our achievements. We downplay what we've done. You know, prior to the book, I rarely even told people that I served. It was something that I kind of kept to myself. And I didn't really talk about myself when it came to military service. And Tim Walz, on the other hand, boasted about his accomplishments in the military. He did something else. He overstated what he had done. He had told people in order to get into political office that he was a higher ranking individual. He claimed to be a sergeant major when he retired, when in fact he was a first sergeant. And the difference in those jobs is night and day. A sergeant major is the person that is the liaison to the company commander, the boss of the battalion, the connection to the soldiers of the enlisted, the hardworking men and women that actually do the grunt work in the military. And the first sergeant is more of a daily, you know, a platoon leader. You know, we're going to call him an everyday Joe Schmo, but just more of a normalized position. It's not a top echelon leadership position. So he claimed that he had that position, and that was, you know, very disappointing. And I heard about that over the years, but I never really paid close attention to it because he wasn't on the national spotlight. Whenever the national spotlight came out, when he became the elect, I had read more about it, and they came all these news stories, and you get to learn more about it, and you see the videos where he's talking about himself being in combat. And Tim Walz never served in a combat zone. He was mobilized to go to war, but he never went to combat. And he claimed on multiple occasions that he was in combat and that we should listen to him and we should take his advice on how to be a better company, a better country because of the experiences he's had, which most of my fellow brothers and sisters in the military would have these great experiences to be able to, maybe give you advice on how to stay out of war, or to maybe, control weapons on the street and so forth. And he completely lied about his service in order to make himself look better, to get ahead in politics, and maybe to get his views approved. And then finally, the challenging part about Tim Walz that was the most disappointing overall was that he had done some devious, very devious items in order to get out of not serving. When I was mobilized to go to Desert Storm 2, which I got mobilized and I was sent to the border of Mexico for the second war. In the first war, I was just 18 years old. I was an infantryman in Desert Storm. I didn't want to go. I woke up and I said, I don't want to go to war. I'm going to die. I'm going to lose my limbs. I don't want to die. I've seen all these Vietnam veterans as a kid that suffered and that are maimed, that are amputated. They were everywhere. I would meet them. They were my family. They were everywhere. I did not want to go to war, but I did it. I found the courage to go, found a way to do something I didn't want to do. Tim Walz, on the other hand, found a way to escape the war. And if you watch any news program, just do a simple internet search. There's interviews from the people he served with. They trained to go to war. They were prepared to go to war. And then he got out of going to war. He went behind his leader's back. He joined up into the politics and got into the realm of the political offices and found a way that he could get held up for political office and vote after being trained to go, after being mobilized with his soldiers. And it was very, very disappointing that a person that had done that could actually be brought to the high office that he has and even possibly become the vice president of our country. In the military, if there was anybody that had ever done the behavior that he did, he would be ousted from our be on the team. He would not be respected, and people would not want to even serve with this person. So to see him get to this position where he's at, for me, is shocking. And I felt it was my responsibility for my voice to be heard, because I would not want to serve with Tim Walz. I would not want to have him be my leader. So why in the world would I want him to be my vice president?
Our author of the week, Douglas Ernest, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. The book, Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. For Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed.
Election coverage every time you tune in. This is Springfield's Talk 104.1.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite news podcasts? Good news! Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Stay up to date on everything newsworthy with podcasts like The Daily, Up First, and 5 Things Uninterrupted at amazon.com/ad-free. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Missouri's Amendment 3 is cleverly worded to convince you that it only allows abortions until fetal viability. But it has loopholes that allow for abortions through all 9 months of pregnancy. Abortion proponents used to say safe, legal, and rare. But now they want abortion as common as the morning after pill. Plus, minor-age children will have access to sex change surgeries without parental consent. Vote no on Amendment 3.
Paid for by Leadership for America PAC, John B. Royal Treasurer.
KSGF Mornings with Nick Reed, sponsored by the Carricker team at IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com. Because when the time comes, you'll want a great home loan. IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com. NMLS number 1.
All right, we're going to get a traffic update, and then we are going to be talking with Clayton Baker. He's Greene County Republican Central Committeeman regarding an official complaint with the IRS regarding a candidate, the Democrat candidate for the 132nd district right here in the Springfield area. So we'll learn what that is about in just moments. Now the latest traffic. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68. Tonight, clear with a low around 41. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 71. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 73.
Pyramid Roofing Company, talk at text line 447 KSGF. Tomorrow's Friday, isn't it? My gosh, it's already...
feels really weird because you were off on Monday, so I feel you probably also feel like you're a day behind.
Yeah,
too.
be at Scramblers tomorrow. Be nice to be back there.
It's been a hot
like
minute.
the last 2 weeks because we kicked off Farm Fest and then I was gone out of town last Friday, so we will be back at Scramblers tomorrow, sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting, which is powered by 3M Window Film. So it'll be really nice to get back there tomorrow and just see all of you folks that I haven't seen in a couple of weeks. I want to welcome to the show Clayt Baker. He is a Greene County Republican Central Committee man, and he has filed a complaint with the Internal Revenue Service based on info that came to his attention regarding what appears to be unlawful and improper use of tax-exempt property by Jeremy Dean, who's the Democrat candidate for the 132nd. And I appreciate you being with us this morning. Wanted you to come on and just explain what this is about, because the information that I've seen, it all seems pretty straightforward, at least based off of what is in a press release here, that it's just against the law for any tax-exempt property or a charitable organization to be used for political purposes. And he is. And now I'm not sure what response is going to come from that side, whether it be publicly or in court or wherever this ends up. Is it that straightforward? Explain to us what information you learned and what the complaint is here.
Okay. Well, first, thank you, Mr. Reed, for having me on your program.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. I am on Greene County Central Committee. I've been on it for a while, and Greene County, the Greene County Republican Party did issue a press release on this as a result of me filing an IRS, essentially whistleblower complaint about or against Mr. Dean's employer, the Drew Lewis Foundation, that runs a nonprofit here in town.
Right. Yeah, and I think people are familiar. They run PSAs here, and they've been around for a while, so it's a pretty well-known charitable organization.
It is, and it did surprise me what I learned. And just let me tell you, I think it is straightforward. The documents that I sent to the IRS lay it out, and the press release lays it out. Let's just go through the documents. Jeremy filed listing and address. He filed for the seat, listing 914 West Central Street as his home address. He filed that back in February of this year. And before that, in December of this year, he filed a statement of committee organization with the Missouri Ethics Commission, filed that December 8th, where he lists his committee, Citizens for Jeremy Dean, as having that same address, and that address is being his address. And that address, of course, as the press release indicates, is owned by this charity. So the charity cannot allow that address to be used for political purposes. It's pretty clear, straightforward. I was surprised to find this out. In addition to the statement of committee organization that Mr. Dean filed along with his treasurer, they both signed it, the charity itself filed a tax-exempt application with the Greene County assessor, and it was approved, and that was filed in March of 23 for that property, 914 West Central. And I obtained a copy of that document. That's also public. And that document I attached to the complaint. And in that document, the charity indicates the land will only be used for charitable purposes, that house. It indicates that their intent to use it is to rent it for up to 2 years to a one family where they work with banks to repair their credit and become the owner of the home. I think that's probably a lot of what that charity does. They help people that can't seem to get home ownership acquired to do that, and that's a noble thing for them to do, and I appreciate that. But they also got tax-exempt status as a result of claiming they were going to do that with this property. And so there's no real estate tax being paid now on that property since last March. And those people were to have a 2-year lease starting at some time around then, and obviously they're not still leasing it, or if they're still living there, they're living there with Mr. Dean. I haven't been there, and I wouldn't know. Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward.
Well, and it seems that way, and like I mentioned, I mean, the Drew Lewis Foundation's got a pretty good reputation in the area, so it's kind of interesting to see them caught up in this. And so what this filing? How does this? What is the timeline here? What happens next? Because we're a few weeks away from the election. So what does that look like? That calendar?
Exactly, and I don't know what the IRS's timeline is. I know they have not yet responded to me to say they've even received this complaint. I filed it last Thursday, and Greene County Republican Party issued the press release wondering whether or not the IRS would be fast enough to do anything before the election, and that the people, the voters of the county, and especially the 132nd, need to know this information to help them make this decision on who they want to vote for. And so that's partly why I'm on the radio right now.
Have there been? I haven't seen any news coverage of this, which I'm going to guess that the position from Jeremy Dean is going to be, I don't know what the defense. I'm going to guess that he will put up some defense, whatever that may be. But the fact that this involves the Drew Lewis Foundation, which is a well-known, reputable charitable organization here in the area. This seems like the sort of thing that would be in the news, but I haven't seen anything.
I haven't either. There was a press release sent out to all the news points. So, but Jeremy Dean is the director of operations for the Drew Lewis Foundation, and speculating like you or just thinking about that, I don't know. He may have done this and they didn't know. I find
that so hard to believe. I just can't. Some of the things that, and listen, I know that I talk about these things more than a lot of people, but every so often I find myself in disbelief and I don't know that this is going to be the defense if there's an acknowledgement, oh yes, we were in violation here, but we didn't know. I just find that so remarkably difficult to believe because there are just certain things that I'm very proactive, I guess, where I'm very cautious, like, well, wait a minute, we better make sure that this is okay. And utilizing a tax-exempt charitable organization to run, which is the allegation here, a campaign out of, just to me seems like, even if you don't know, it's such a huge red flag, you'd be like, we ought to check this out. So that would just be so difficult to comprehend to me.
I tend to agree, but I'm not going to conclude
right.
That's the
sure,
case.
No, and that's
maybe
fair.
Mr. Dean did this on his own. He certainly should know that he can't do that. And
has there been, and
own.
forgive me if you mentioned this, but someone had texted in wondering if a complaint had been filed with the Missouri Elections Commission, the MEC.
Not yet.
Is that going to happen, and is there a reason that it hasn't?
Well, my issue was the legal issue. I am an attorney and I've practiced in Southwest Missouri for over 40 years, and more the legal issue of the misuse of the property for political purposes, and the IRS needs to take care of that.
And for people, for people, we're talking with Clayton Baker. He's Greene County Republican Central Committee man. He filed a complaint with the IRS regarding the allegation here that Jeremy Dean, the Democrat running in the 132nd, is using a tax-exempt charitable organization infrastructure in order to run his campaign, which is, if that is the case, violation of the law. And I know you mentioned, but if you could recap it for people who are just tuning in, the filings in terms of tax that you see as evidence that this illegality is occurring.
Okay. Well, two major documents. One would be the document that Mr. Dean himself filed with the Missouri Ethics Commission. It's called the Statement of Committee Organization, where it was actually an amendment of his committee organization, where he amended to list that particular residence, 914 Central, as the his primary residence and the location for his committee, Citizens for Dean. And that document was filed December 8th of 23 with the Ethics Commission. Document.
Got it. So he filed. So according to his filing, that's where he lives, and that's where he's running his campaign from.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And that's right. And that the next document would be a document that's titled Tax Exempt Application for the year 2023 that the Drew Lewis Foundation filed with the Greene County Assessor's Office, and they got approval for that particular property to be used exclusively for charitable purposes. And I just, I already went through a little bit of what they claimed they were going to use it for. So.
All right. Well, if you would keep us updated as to what happens here. I mean, again, it seems pretty straightforward unless there's just going to be a claim of ignorance on this, which we're always told ignorance is, no excuse when it comes to violation of law. But I don't know. It seems like sometimes it is. people are given a benefit of it, but we'll see how this plays out. Clayton Baker, Greene County Republican Central Committee man, appreciate you being with us and sharing us this info. And I still, actually, I will say this. I suspect if the parties were reversed, the news leader would be all over this. If this was a Republican running for an elected office and there were accusations that in violation of the law, the Republican was using a charitable organization in order to live and run a campaign from, that, just the allegations and the fact that this is a news story to me because there's a filing, there's a complaint with the IRS on it, that they would be all over it. But, we kind of know where they're coming from, and they aren't necessarily a news outlet as much as an advocate for Democrat candidates. So I'm not surprised, but it's just really unfortunate. And yet, again, a reflection on how that particular news outlet, it totally fails the Springfield community and the Springfield area. Clayton Baker, thank you for being with us this morning.
Glad. Last thing, I
Yes.
really hope somebody in the media will pick this up and find out answers before the election, because, the IRS is going to do their thing, and I don't know how long they'll take. But, this is an important thing that the voters should know about and understand and help make their decision on who they want to be their representative.
Well, people can choose whether or not to hold their breath on the local media covering this story. Thank you again. And again, like I said, any updates, just please let us know.
Sure.
All right. Take care. Springfield.
Glad to be on.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. If you have roof damage from the spring storms that you've been putting off, or maybe you just want to check on the health of your roof, now is the time to do it. And that is why I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections, and whenever you call them out, they'll come out, they'll do tons of photos and videos so you can see exactly what they see, and then they're going to work with you and tell you the best solution for you and your home. And if it is time to do repairs, or maybe it is time to get that new roof, they'll work through the insurance process with you without making you sign anything. And speaking of insurance, there is a time limit to file that claim. So if you do think you have damage from those May storms, make sure that you schedule that free roof inspection as soon as possible. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out at your home, give them a call today. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Anytime you have a campaign and you have complaints that are filed, you're almost always, the other side's going to deny it or claim that it's misinformation. And sometimes the public response will be different than the legal response if one is required. In the last segment, talking to Clayton Baker with Greene County Republican Central Committee, he's on the committee there, and what he was arguing is behind the complaint to the IRS that you have the Democrat candidate in the 132nd utilizing a tax-exempt charity to run his campaign. And Clayton Baker saying that according to the Democrat candidate's own filings, that is his, Jeremy Dean is the name of the candidate, that is his residence, and that is where his campaign headquarters are. Now, all of that information, it seems pretty cut and dry. The fact that, so you've got local race, allegations that involve a very well-known local and reputable charitable organization. It doesn't assert any wrongdoing on their part. In fact, Mr. Baker suggested they may not have even known that, he's giving the benefit of the doubt there. It's not about them, but it does involve them. And no local news on this? Especially from the news leader? They're too interested writing propaganda pieces to convince you that Amendment 3 won't have anything to do with sex change operations for kids. They're too busy writing pieces in order to try and convince people to vote on Amendment 3. For a fact that this is the race that we've talked about this before. Stephanos Freeman is the Republican who's running. There was a primary there. He won the primary. For a fact, if he is a Republican, if there was an IRS complaint filed against him, putting forth evidence that he himself filed that his residency and his campaign headquarters was a charitable organization, which would be in violation of the law, for a fact there would be stories about that. And, of course, if it was the case, then the charitable organization would probably be one that was conservative, and they'd drill after that organization and try and tarnish it. And this is sadly what we've become accustomed to in this city and in the country. Here you have what's supposed to be the provider of news, in-depth news, to the community, and they're not. And we all know why. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. I'm sure you all remember one of the fact-checking that David Muir did of Donald Trump when Donald Trump was talking about crime up under the Biden administration, and he fact-checked to make sure Americans knew that that wasn't true based off the FBI statistics. Well, the FBI, they have, as government oftentimes does, quietly recognized that their original numbers were incorrect, and actually the crime stats show a 55% rise in crime under Biden. So once again, Trump was right. See you at Scramblers tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.